You know what? You know what, M. Night? I see you. I see you. Nerd Soul. Lay Ill Kid at OneYoungsta holding it down, bringing that StreetGeek and NERDSoul. What is up, my people, today? Oh, yeah, coming with another wonderful episode of movie reviews. I'm glad that this is out. I really am. We're gonna have some fun. We stay in spoiler free, but finally, I can honestly argue back and be like, you know what? January isn't as trash as people say it is, because today we're gonna be talking about Glass. And like I said, we're staying spoiler free. This is a movie that I really enjoyed. And there's four main things that people have asked me about because they're thinking about, of course, going to see it the next weekend. So I'm gonna go and get into the first one, which is the direction. M. Night, you know what? Like I said, when I talked about Split, I said, you know, whenever you're in sports, to call it a streak, you need to win 3 in a row. And we have The Visit, I like that. Split, I like that. And I would have Glass, and I like this. So I have to say that direction is not only fun and on point, the way it's very interesting, the shots and the way that this is paced, but also it's just crafted well. This movie doesn't ever seem like, oh, this is boring, or dad, I gotta wash clothes when I get home. You know, you never end up in a point where you're like, man, would this just end? Because it's paced so well, it's directed so well, and they kind of block a lot of shots in very interesting ways where you're like, you know, like that's a nice way to set that shot up. And even in a movie that seems to be kind of like, you know, you look at this movie like, oh, this is a small budget movie, but it's still very interesting what they do with the characters and the way, between the way this is paced, the way they block off these shots, the way it's edited. I gotta say, this movie is directed well. M. Night, I used to be like, yo man, I ain't feeling you, but I have to say, M. Night is back. This is the third movie where I've loved the direction. I've really liked the pacing and I like how they relate the scenes to each other. There's no weird cuts or jumps when it comes to this film. And that happens a lot. I saw a TV show recently where I was like, why was that done? But in here, there's never a shot where you're like, why'd they cut it like that? And they use a lot of context clues, just a lot of interesting visual takes to like lead you into the next shot or lead you into the next scene. And it's clever. And I think that's something that M. Night has been missing for a long time. And not clever for clever's sake. Clever because you're being intuitive and you're kind of using intriguing ways to tell your story. So the direction is definitely on point. Now, with that said, I'm feeling that. Let's talk about the acting. Everybody here comes to play. There is no one actor in this movie that I'm like, yo, they're whack, they should have been replaced, I don't like them. The people they bring back, the people they include, the new folks in this story, they all come and give their A game. And once again, man, Professor X is killing it up in this joint, yo. Like, the amount of work, the amount of inflections, the amount of, wow, masterclass in acting. Then you take Samuel L. Jackson, and without being spoilery, in this film, of course, he is in a kind of in a state where he's in a very diminished mental capacity. And seeing him bring that across, knowing, of course, because we all know Samuel L. Jackson for cursing and being Nick Fury and all that stuff. Seeing him like this shows that he's a celebrity that's still this character actor where it's like, wow, he really brings across this invalid type look where you almost feel bad for him. And wow, kudos to that. And then you see Bruce Willis, who, let's be honest, Bruce Willis has mailed that joint in many, many a time. But here, you can see that this is a story he cares about because he definitely brings across this feeling of a broken man, of a man that might be at the end of his road, a man who's trying to figure out who he is, what he's gonna do, why he's gonna do it. And entering, you know, even Sarah Paulson, and just, there's so much here to love with the main 3 casts where you're just like, wow, I believe these characters, and I think it's because the actors believe in this. I think the director believes in this. Just the acting is on point. There's nobody who you're like, man, they just did not care. This is incredible to watch and very interesting, especially due to the tone, which I'll get to after the break. But boy, do I love the acting. These people have come together and crafted a well-acted and very interesting narrative with Glass. Now, of course, I got two other things that people have asked me about to get to after the jump. But first, of course, KURO Brand's gonna help us pay them bills. Oh yeah, check the link below. Hat, shirts, hoodies, all that jazz. And once you find something you like, of course, cop it. Now, I know people like, you know the word I'm gonna get to on last, but we're gonna save the best for last. The next thing I want to talk about is the tone of this movie. There is a tone of sorrow and dread that kind of hangs over this film, but in a good way. And I know that sounds weird because you're like, oh man, it's gonna be a sad movie. Sort of, but it's in a way that you understand these people's lives and why they are at the point that they're at. And this kind of like hanging cloud over everybody and everything really helps fill out the world and the dire situation that day-to-day life can put you in. And a tone like that, especially seeing these characters where they are and how they are, makes it seem more relatable and more realistic and more of an honest look at their lives in this world, in the movie world. You know what I'm saying? So it comes across as very honest because they could easily be like, oh, this is this cheery movie, bright colors, and everybody's happy, and we just happen to be at a mental institution. No, it's like, yo, this is real. And this is a place where people are not happy, and the people that are surrounded by their loved ones that are here are not happy. And it's just bad for everyone, but bad in a way that doesn't drain you, but makes you lean in. It makes you more interested into the outcome and how this plays out and how they got there, and will they get out? How will this affect their families? And will their families do more or do less concerning their love for them? It's a very interesting way to play this, and I truly enjoy it. The tone of this, straight flames. It fits it well, and it makes it more believable, even more believable. But the last thing, we talked about direction, talked about the acting, talked about the tone of the film. Your boy, you know what I'm about to talk about. It's the action. And this is a movie that makes you look for it and wait for it and figure it out before you get to the action. It makes you wait for it in a good way. We get pieces of action along the way, but then there's of course a set piece at the end, just like every other movie. But the way the action is played and displayed is very honest and very real to these characters. You're never gonna see something that's it won't be like Independence Day or something like that, because they don't go to the outlandish, but they show something that's out of this world, but in the context of Glass. Unbreakable, Split, and Glass being all together, and it works. Not only is this a culmination of all three films, not only is this kind of like the anger and everything coming to a head, but this is a fitting action set piece all throughout, because there are parts where in this movie where you're like, yo, this is building. It's building here in the middle, semi-middle, the end. All of these action set pieces mean something, and they matter to the story. And I think that's what makes them have, or at least feel like they have, more stakes, because we're not just kind of like thrown in there. We're kind of built up to it, and we're made to appreciate them a little more because they matter more, not only to the characters, but to their loved ones around them, and even just people around them in general that might be bystanders. Really digging this. Really digging how they took what could have been like a blown, unnecessary sequel into something that really caps off a story extremely well. You take the direction, you take the acting, the tone which just like hovers over you like a cloud, and this action that is straight up flames, especially considering the characters and the dynamics we have. Oh boy, you know I'm giving this joint, we going high, 4.5 stars. I love this film. It might not be for everyone because it does drain you, and it is not a happy time throughout this movie. But this movie is a good movie, solid, very this thing from front to back, very on point. Minor things that I have to deal with it, but if you take Unbreakable, you take Split, you take Glass, this is a great capstone to all of these things. Very well put together. Enjoy the way the action goes down. Enjoy the way the people, just the dialogue and how they speak to each other, how they look at each other is just so well done. M. Night, I'm gonna go on and say it, man, you back. You know what I'm saying? I used to mispronounce your name on purpose because I was so tired of going to the theater and wasting my money on something you put together. But you know what? You're back. You're back, and I ain't gonna disrespect you like no more. I ain't gonna do it. It's wrong. It was wrong for me then, and it's wrong for me now, especially because you done did a 3-peat. That's right. You on the streak. You made me proud. Love this film. If you're into Glass, if you're into Unbreakable or Split, this movie is definitely for you. So, guys, before I bounce, holler at me. I'm gonna holler at you. Down in them comments, let's talk Glass. I've tried to stay very spoiler free. So of course, put spoiler in the top, hit enter 62 times, and then write what you gotta write because we wanna save it for people. Now, after the second weekend, maybe then we can talk about stuff. But I try to give a movie its theatrical run before we start spoiling things. So guys, of course, I love it, I dig it, I hope y'all did too. I'm gonna tell you guys to hit me up at ThatNERDSoul.com. That's right, check me out right there. All my videos from the oldest, newest, latest, greatest, and all that. Then hit up shop.ThatNERDSoul.com and pick yourself up a t-shirt player. Don't forget to get one for them playettes. Then come back here, like, comment, subscribe, and share that Nerd Soul. That's right, there's no better way that I can show people that you like what you are watching. So, LA, what up? VA, what up? RVA, you got my heart, and please be good to yourselves. Please be good to each other, and remember, the institution for the mentally disabled is never a good place to pick a fight. Peace.